Hey guys, welcome to my 28 years later movie review, which I will be keeping spoiler free. So let's review the movie and rate it using my super sophisticated 5-star rating system that coincidentally took 28 freaking years to develop. Yeah. And as a bonus, I am going to rank the films of the franchise, all 4 of them, including the rarely talked about prequel, because I love you guys. But seriously, 28 years later is the 3rd film in the franchise and the first of a whole new trilogy, which makes sense because the gap between 28 days versus 28 weeks versus 28 years, yeah, shit's changed. And you see that with a ton of world building, which is actually really cool. Danny Boyle and Alex Garland is back as director and writer, which I love because Alex Garland gave us Ex Machina. That's one of my favorite films. These two did 28 days later, but weren't here for 28 weeks later. And we may have a clue about how they felt about that, because even though this movie doesn't say it, 28 weeks later may have just not even happened. It didn't exist. I'm not criticizing that. I wish Last Jedi got that treatment. Maybe Rise of Skywalker wouldn't have been such, yeah. Back to 28 years later, there's an awesome cast here. Ralph Fiennes plays Dr. Kelson, who's a really interesting character. Jodie Comer plays a mom struggling with her health and a mysterious disease we can't figure out. But we begin with her husband, Jamie, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, who keeps being in a ton of stuff. And I don't mind because I really like him as an actor. But the real standout here is Alfie Williams, who plays his son, Spike. Kid actors usually suck in a lot of cases. Dude, this kid carries the entire movie and he does it well with a really interesting arc that I'm sure we're just going to see more of, which is awesome. And what we see here really is the aftermath of the zombie outbreak. Infected outbreak, zombie infected, whatever. And these people have adapted to living in this world because they have a whole nice setup, dude, like an island with like a whole little thing. It's freaking cool. It's safe and protected. And yeah, unfortunately, there's this like rite of passage coming of age thing, which is special, I guess. But it's kind of like a take your kid to work day, but like a really shitty one. Like, this isn't The Walking Dead, bro. Like, these guys run. And there's a part of you that wants to be like, bro, if something bad happens to these people, you can just chalk it up to like Darwinism, but you can't because these characters have been like developed in a good way and you care about them. Good job, movie. And there are some cool visuals here, including like an arrow effect that seemed cool but familiar. And it kind of, I couldn't put my finger on it till a few of them happened. And then it hit me. This is the Matrix. Yeah, but with arrows. And that might seem okay, except the Matrix is a quarter century old. I'm old. Dated effect gimmick aside, 28 years later, it's a good looking film. Even though some of the stylish choices may not be for everyone, I personally didn't mind because Danny Boyle was just being Danny Boyle, and I expected this. And they've been promoting that this movie was entirely shot with iPhones, and I'm sure added equipment to it because, yeah. And listen, I've been an iPhone person since day one, literally. But even I know there's a few shots here that were a little bit distracting because of what they were using. As far as the gore, you're gonna love it, dude. There's a lot here, but it feels like it's supposed to be there considering the things that are going on, and it's practical effects too, which is always a win. The infected look cool too, even though I have to warn you, I mean, did a nudist colony get attacked? Because yeah, I mean, it's cool in a way because it adds this like primal caveman element, which is really interesting. But just know if you are bringing your kid, it's gonna get weird. Yeah. There might have also been some like mutation that happened because some of the males, they have 3 legs. Yeah, I didn't appreciate the 4K in some of these moments. I didn't. Glad I didn't see it in IMAX, and 40X would have been a rough watch. Yes, did not want to feel that. And listen, 28 years later starts off strong. And without going into detail, leads up to a sequence that had me at the edge of my seat wanting to be like cheering and yeah, heart pounding out of my chest, and it's amazing. So amazing that the first thing I thought about when the scene was over was, we have another half a movie left. And I'm pretty sure that's the feeling I want to have at the end of the movie. I'm saying this for a reason. But no, wait, there's more. And here's where I get into some of the problems. I've heard a lot of people talk about lack of cohesive storytelling, which is true, definitely. But to me, it felt more like were there 2 screenplays? It really felt like there were 2 screenplays and they just said like, screw it, let's just do both. And I'm not saying this is horrible. It's not. In fact, watching this movie 28 years later feels like the superior film of the entire franchise. But every time I decided to mentally take a step back and look at this entire thing, this was all over the place. Setting up all these plot lines and just leaving them there, which I get because this is a new part 1 to a trilogy, but with this being film number 3, sorry Sandra Bullock, number 4, it is a little annoying feeling like the third act is just a lot of setup for the upcoming films and the world they will live in. And I get it, but even movies that are part of a trilogy need to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. But even with 28 years later going like all over the place, this movie still had a ton of heart and weight and was beautiful, which I appreciated until all of this emotion of the film is totally deflated by the last 2 minutes. Wow. Don't worry, it's not part of the story. It almost acts like a post-credit scene, and I won't spoil anything here for you guys, not going into detail. In fact, I'm going to help you and your viewing experience by warning you to brace yourself, because this is so dumb and out of place, and the movie basically turns into a cartoon. And not a very good one. We're not talking like G.I. Joe or Transformers or some shit. Credit to Anthony Perez, who also does movie reviews. He's got a great channel. He said this was kind of like a Power Ranger vibe, and I totally agree. But hey, art is subjective, and you might like this. Like if you saw Book of Boba Fett and loved the episode with like the Vespas, then boy, do I have a movie for you. I left with such a bad taste in my mouth. It actually lowered the rating from what I was actually going to give it. And I left the theater thinking, if this is what part 2 is going to be, I'm going to wait for streaming, if I'm going to be honest. And yeah, the feeling we definitely deserved here leaving the theater was unfortunately an hour into the movie. Yeah. So as far as ranking, I'm going to make this fast. At number 4, we have 28 Days, where Sandra Bullock, a girl that likes to drink, shows early stages of the rage virus and ends up in like a rehab for 28 days, which doesn't work, hence the next 3 films. I wasn't a fan, and I'm totally glad that the franchise went a different direction with the rest of the films. Number 3, we have 28 Weeks Later. That actually doesn't hold up that well now. On top of that, they're kind of acting like this movie doesn't really exist, which unfortunately, it feels even more irrelevant. It's basically the kid in the playground with lice. At number 2 is 28 Years Later. It feels like the best film in the franchise, but it's just too all over the place and didn't know what movie it wanted to be, I guess. But yeah, bro, A for effort for sure. And at number 1 is obviously 28 Days Later. They purposely used a shitty camera to make the movie rough looking, and it is a little too rough when you watch it now, because on today's 4K TVs, this was shot in 480p, which, yeah, but your eyes do adjust and you are left with an intimate, simple, and creepy story. Oh, and by the way, the zombies run, which, that was some crazy shit back then. Yeah. Guys, go to the comments right now. Tell me what you thought about 28 Years Later. This is definitely a critic's film, not more of an audience film. I just pretend to be a critic, which is why I'm kind of siding with the audience on this one a little bit. But let me know what you thought of it. Also, rank the movies. Why not? And please like, subscribe, and whatever all this stuff that I have. Hit that bell for notifications, and thanks for watching.